The mental benefit to what you guys do is absolutely insane. If we know most of the world, whether it's a high school kid all the way up, is experiencing significant levels of fear, anxiety, nervousness, all that fun stuff, and you can get them to enter into the physically demanding workouts that you guys do that are healthy, that are safe, that are time efficient, there's nothing that'll positively influence those levels of challenges that people are experiencing right now in the world. And there's nothing that they can put inside their body, in my opinion, other than getting them to do something really, really hard and to do it consistently in a safe manner that's going to improve their mental, physical, and emotional health, like what you guys do.
We are about to launch.
We do it? Truth Not Trends. What's up, people? You know where you are. Do you know where you are? Hey, where am I? I'm at TNT Strength. Where are you? Oh, there you are. Boom, baby. We are back in TNT HQ with another incredible episode of the TNT Strength Truth Not Trends podcast. This is the podcast where we help you maximize your strength as safely
and efficiently
as possible. My name is Jesse Schmidt, and get this, I've been a strength coach for 2,222 days.
Oh, that number is too perfect.
If you're into numerology, you're going to be going crazy.
Something. My name is Liam Bauer. I've been a strength coach for 35 years and counting.
Counting.
That's right.
Counting. Welcome, everyone. Today, we are bringing you an interview with Scott Savor. Scott is the owner, founder, CEO of Uncommon Competitor. He's a leadership consultant and speaker who has really led kind of a charmed professional life and gotten to work with some incredible teams, including the Golden State Warriors and the Lakers when Kobe Bryant was around. He's been a head strength coach. He's got a lot of fascinating stories and anecdotes that we're going to get into in this podcast. He's got a master's degree in kinesiology.
That's right, and a high school diploma.
And he got that high school diploma as well. Scott's an interesting guy. If you listen to this episode and then you're still curious, he's got some stuff on YouTube, and you can hear about his personal journey of reading hundreds or thousands of books and 20,000 plus hours of reading. He's a well-read gentleman and loves high intensity training as well.
Yes, we can. We appreciate that. Yeah, he's a fan and a practitioner in his own right. As Jesse mentioned, has a pretty good background in strength and conditioning, including a little time with the Vikings way back in the day, and also at the collegiate level. So yeah, he has a background in similar stuff, and then went off to create this company that is assisting people at becoming the best.
And so in this interview, we're going to get into leadership, motivation, mental training, daily habits, all kinds of valuable stuff to bring you closer on your journey to success.
That's right. How to manipulate your technology.
That's right.
Get the most out of it. Use your time wisely.
Communication habits, gratitude practice, all kinds of stuff. Before we get to the interview with Scott, we want to talk with you about TNT Strength's new line of nutritional supplements.
That's right. We have 5. That's right. Not just 1, not 2, not 3, but 5. 5 amazing supplements. These are things that we take ourselves every single day. We thought we'd start with the good stuff. As Jesse often reminds people, we believe in a healthy, balanced, whole food diet as your basic structure for your nutritional plan, your personal eating plan, as I like to say.
High protein. Don't forget that.
That's right. Emphasize that. Prioritize the protein. Don't be afraid of the fat. Manage your carbs, right? Simple things. But just in case there's any holes in your nutritional plan or you feel like you're missing something, we got 5 good supplements that we recommend. Of course, a quality whey protein, some probiotics, keep that gut balance healthy, nice fish oil product, good for all kinds of good stuff, vitamin K2 and D3, some structural support, and of course, some creatine to increase that mind-muscle connection get you stronger, get those cognitive benefits. Get them all at the TNT store.
That's right. So visit tntstrength.com if you want to check out our delicious chocolatey whey protein or any of our other supplements. And when you're done visiting tntstrength.com, head right back here and enjoy this interview with Uncommon Competitors, Scott Savor. Scott, thank you so much for joining us today on the TNT podcast. We're very happy to have you to share your wisdom and experience, and hopefully we get to hear some awesome anecdotes that I talked with you on the phone about a couple of weeks back. Maybe we can just start by having you introduce yourself to our audience and tell them a little bit about how you started your career and how you've, the road you've traveled to Uncommon Competitor, and what are you doing now?
All good. Honored to be here. A lot of smoke and mirrors. I always tell people don't get caught in the fog. So we all got a story, and I'm no valuable or important than anyone else. But, do we take the time to tell other people our stories? And, do we leverage the wisdom from other people or the experiences? And, I got a lot to learn, and just honored to be here. So excited to get after it. Appreciate you all.
Yeah.
Very fortunate. Maybe the Reader's Digest version. Grew up in a small town, northern Minnesota. 500 people. Never had a stoplight. Small town guy. Played basketball, played football. Who cares? And had 4 different college coaches as a collegiate basketball player, and had every experience known to man or woman. Coaching philosophy, good, bad, or indifferent, as a collegiate athlete. And I think I achieved maybe 60% of my potential. So the reason why my business exists right now, Uncommon Competitor, is to assist highly competitive individuals, teams, and companies with their journey and successfully compete against life's toughest challenges, in my opinion. So I'm very fortunate, but thanks for listening. Was fortunate to get an internship with the Minnesota Vikings, Randy Moss's first year. So I'm dating myself here a little bit, but didn't have a clue what I was doing. But I was around some really, really smart people at a young age. And Luke Carlson was one of those people. And you guys know Luke. And just very, very fortunate from that standpoint. Yeah, I could keep going, but I'm going to pass back to you guys.
Head strength coach at that time?
Steve Wetzel.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I know Tom Canavy, but I don't know. I've never met Steve Wetzel. Obviously, I know the name, but yeah.
Very good.
Good people out there. I saw that you had a background in both the athletics and also in the strength and conditioning stuff. So you studied a little bit about that along the way.
Yep, very, very fortunate. I got on a really weird learning journey, hung out with Jim Flanagan for a week down in Florida. It changed my life. Up until age 23, I never read a book cover to cover, never went into a bookstore, never went into a library. And he introduced me to a bunch of people and said I need to start reading books. And it just rocked my world. And then so thousands of books
wise
later.
Man. He's been a we've been lucky enough to have him as a guest on our podcast, and he's an incredible guy. I'd be interested to dig a little bit more into that experience, Scott, because you've talked about that on a couple different podcast interviews you've done, and it seems like that was a really transformative experience for you. I mean, you said it was 1 week, as a 23-year-old, but just maybe this is just the narrative I'm forming in my mind, but it seems like that was a huge turning point for you in your life and in your career. Would you agree with that?
Oh, 100%. But you guys know this better than anybody. It's a moment. It's a person. It's a good or bad experience. It can change the whole stream of everything for you. But the wild card is you got to be awake to it, because I think Arthur Jones said 175 years ago, right? Something might show up for you, but if you don't notice it, it might brush past your face and it might not ever come back ever again. So I think awareness is a really big deal. I got lucky and my radar was up. And then I took action on it, right? Because you never learn unless it drives an action, right? And until it causes you to do desired action or behavior. So I was very fortunate.
What led you to spend that week with Jim Flanagan in the first place? I mean, how did that all come about?
And great question.
Maybe just for the benefit of our audience, if you're tuning in and you don't know who Big Jim Flanagan is, he worked directly with Arthur Jones, who was the inventor and founder of Nautilus and MedX, which is, some of the best equipment that's ever been made. And Jim was a salesman who worked with Nautilus for a couple decades and is just generally known as a kind of a maverick in the high intensity training niche of the fitness industry. Lives down in Florida.
And still going strong.
100%. Yep, got one of the most unique private gyms in the history of the world. And one of the nicest, most genuine people you probably ever meet. So pretty amazing, in my opinion.
So how did you make that connection to start with?
So Luke Carlson and I put on a seminar in Minnesota when we were working with the Vikings, and we got pretty lucky, and we invited Jim up as a speaker, and that's how I got to know Jim for the first time. And I didn't really know a lot of people in the industry. We were young. I mean, 20, going on 20 years old, maybe. I was just a young kid, all excited. Oh, I get to work with the NFL players and all this other garbage. And I didn't know what I was doing. And I had nightmares at night. I'd wake up at like 3 a.m. and feel like I was missing a workout or something. And because I wasn't trained, like there was too much pressure and it was what it was. But no, anyways. And then I'm the head strength coach at University of Detroit, really young age. And I'm there for about 2 years. And it was curiosity. I think, Liam, to answer your question, curiosity was dialed up enough. Like, hey, maybe I should go hang out with Jim. He invited me down numerous times to go hang out with him in Florida. So I did something I never did ever. I took a week off of work. And you know what it is. You love what you do and you're just grinding yourself to a fine powder. And it's like, oh, but I took a week off of work and spent it with Jim and changed everything for me.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Something when we had our phone call, Scott, I'm sure we could talk about books all day because you and I are both big readers, but that you already mentioned here on this recording that, you had never, until you were 23, you never read a book cover to cover. And then Big Jim, you had one of those, you had one of Big Jim's steaks down there and it convinced you had to start reading. Now you've read, you said you like to say that you've spent over 20,000 hours just reading, right?
Yeah, no, it's crazy. It's way over that. Again, I'm not trying to win a popularity contest, but I have to make public the things that I believe in and have conviction. And I really believe that that's what a lot of the world needs right now. You need to be able to put your stake in a stand. It's not about hurting someone's feelings or, hey, look at me or drawing attention to me. No, I want to draw attention to the behaviors that I believe should be reproduced. And I'm very proud, and I got to, be mindful. Pride is one step away from a fall too. So, but be proud of what you do, like that has influenced your life in a positive, healthy way. So,
yeah, well, it's something you hear pretty commonly, that successful people are readers, and I don't necessarily in this day and age, right? You can go and read the physical book. You can generally listen to the audiobook version of, whatever information you're trying to absorb. You can find some sort of summary or Wikipedia page online so that you can, get in touch with the concepts. There are a lot of different ways to absorb information. That seems like the fundamental at play, that you're just a voracious learner.
And did he recommend very specific things for you to start with in your journey?
Thank you for asking. And it wasn't so much Jim, it was for the people he introduced me to. We'd go back to Jim's house and he would pop in some old VHS tapes of TV shows that he liked, and whether it was Arthur stuff or whatever. So he just exposed me to a whole different gamut of things. But Jesse and I talked about, The Power of Positive Thinking was one book that showed up multiple times with multiple professionals that Jim introduced me to. And The Richest Man in Babylon was another one that popped up that was recommended numerous times from different people that I met with. And I never read those books or knew anything about that. Or I kind of got pissed off, you guys, because I'm like, I've been on this earth 23 years and nobody has driven or pushed me to read like that ever, let alone any content like that. And it just smacked me in the mouth. And it was a game changer for me.
Yeah, that's funny. That obviously that book, Power of Positive Thinking, has been around quite a long time.
Yeah.
It just keeps resurfacing.
Yeah, we have in our we have, similar to Discover Strength, we have a career path at TNT carved out for our trainers, and we have books like the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. There are books about establishing habits, which is, it seems like kind of one of the foundational tenets of your leadership coaching philosophy is just building strong mental habits. And we don't need to get into that quite yet because I think we're still getting through your backstory a little bit, but. So you go down to Florida for a week. Jim Flanagan blows your freaking mind, and all his buddies down there are like, Scott, you gotta go read 3 books all in one night. And you were like, all right, no problem. And then you get back to University of Detroit, and everything was different. And where did you go from there?
So literally for almost 5 years, I'd read 1 to 3 books every single day. It was or listen to them, right? Audio university, whatever. So my commute to work, 30 minutes to work every day, back and forth. I would go home. I wouldn't hang out with anybody. I never had any social life whatsoever. I would literally sit at the pool at my condo where I lived at in Bloomfield Hills, Michigan. And I would just have a stack of books. And I learned how to speed read, and who cares? I hate saying the word I just as much as you guys do. I'm just sharing context. And it was like I got hit by a bright light, like the movie Phenomenon. I always joke with the movie John Travolta. And
I like
it was really, really weird. Yeah. And John Travolta, if anybody knows Arthur Jones stuff, he owns part of the property. I think still.
That's
He's a
right.
big
I
pilot
did
guy.
not know that.
Yeah, because he bought it because of his the airplanes, right? It's like they turned it into a fly-in community down there.
Wow.
Because he had his own private airport, right, where he flew the jets and stuff. So yeah, now it's like rich people that have their own planes and stuff has like a flying-in community. Yeah, it's crazy.
So you're telling me there's a chance that Travolta's training hit style? You think he's got some of that Elvis? Got some of that Elvis sparkly disco Nautilus over there?
Did you look into like Emile Coué? Is that a name that comes to mind with all your like power to positive thinking and stuff? He's a guy from a long time ago who's had this whole sort of kind of a positive thinking background and had tons of followers back in the day. And he had like it's sort of like it was like all about sort of positive. There you go, COUE, with the umlaut or whatever on the top there, the little
Okay.
accent. Yeah, he was a French guy. He was sort of a power positive thinking guy. All these positive affirmations. You're supposed to every day tell yourself every day in every way I feel better and better. Or like I'm basically your affirmations about how you're feeling, how you're doing in the world. And he garnered a bunch of popular following and stuff in his day. He was one my mom used to always talk about. So I associate it with that stuff because it's from way back.
Fun. Thanks for sharing.
Scott, where do you, I feel like we're going to be just like weaving through your past, but I have all these like offshoot questions. Where do you, because you've obviously spent a ton of time learning, absorbing knowledge, but you also have said that, it's important to be driven to action. So, where do you draw the line from, it's like content creation these days, right? We have all these social media channels and it's easy to just consume, and you can do the same thing with books. But like, at what point do you need to start executing and actually taking action on the stuff that you're absorbing?
Sure. Great question for all of us, right? I'm going to give you a really weird answer because I think the question is the answer. The question that you asked is the answer for all of us. And if we don't ask that question, then we don't get a layer deeper and who knows what we do or don't do next. I believe it was Bill Gates that said, literally, if you don't take action on something within 24 to 48 hours or somewhere around there, 72 hours, you're literally wasting your time, or it's very unlikely that's ever going to happen. So I don't care what it is. If I watch a movie, if I get a work, like my wife and I trained this morning with my 16-year-old stepson. And if I learn something this morning, I'll do something about the next 24 hours, whatever it is. Like, I got to fix this machine, or I got to do this at a higher level, or I got to choose a different weight for my next workout, or whatever it is, or change the supervision of the room differently, whatever it is. I got to do that within, in my opinion, 24 hours. So I don't know what everyone's timing is with their best desired action or behavior, but I do know this: unless it's like a life or death, fire, flood, or blood situation, you can probably take action on most things within 24 hours or sooner. And you all know that. So I do know life rewards action, and there's tons of benefit. It compounds, that, all the fun stuff. So it's kind of situationally appropriate, maybe.
Yeah. The scenario dictates everything.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Liam, sir.
So circling back to you have this transformative experience in Florida with Big Jim. You come back to University of Detroit. You're reading a book a day out at the pool, and
not going on dates.
Nothing.
And so where build us a bridge between there being the head strength coach of the University of Detroit and like, when did you start Uncommon Competitor, and what was in between those two?
Thanks for listening. So maybe a microcosm of that experience. I was getting a master's degree for free at University of Detroit at the time, because you're a full-time employee, you get your master's for free in health services administration. And I'll never forget, I called my parents up and I'm like, hey, I'm going to quit my master's and just start reading books on my own even more. And they thought I was absolutely crazy. My sister thought I was a nut job. They're like, what are you doing? You're passing up on this free education to read books on your own. And quit my master's degree for free at that time. And, it changed my life. Anyways, so one of my biggest mistakes maybe at that time, I reflect back now, thanks for listening, is I read too many books too fast, and I didn't maybe take action on what I was reading and learning and absorbing as much as I could have. And I just buried myself into the addiction of new content. And maybe we've all been there at certain times in our life, but it's an unbelievable power that pulls you. And it's like, you can never get enough of new content, but it's like, well, I got to convert my words to works. And for for about 5 years, I just literally went head down in the trenches, and then was fortunate to get an opportunity through Dr. Ted Lamerdidez to go work for a private investor in Florida for 4 years, and then quick stop at University of Tennessee after that. Got a master's in psychology, got to work in women's sports as an assistant strength coach out there. And people are like, you need to teach what you know. And resigned my job, called Pat Summitt on the phone, just said, hey, I'm very fortunate for my opportunity here to work in Tennessee. And hey, I'm going to go a different direction. Just want to do it the right way. Retired my jersey there. And then didn't really know what I was going to do. All I knew is I was going to marry someone at that time, which is now my current wife, Erica. And I needed to get closer to family more. Packed up all my stuff, only the stuff I could put in my car. Told my parents I was coming home for the weekend to visit. And my mom was just bawling her eyes out. She knew I was moving home for good. And best decision I ever made professionally at that time and personally.
Yeah, I think, I've experienced some of what you're saying in my own journey, but I've seen it also many times with that, what you're saying about you get sort of addicted to absorbing all this stuff. I spent a lot of years doing martial arts and teaching self-defense and things like that. And I was just like taking more courses and studying with more teachers and reading more books and watching more videos and like having this library that was growing and growing and growing. But you're not really applying, or you don't even have time. You're like absorbing so much, you're not actually even practicing, right? It's like I've got this library of amazing stuff, but it's like if you don't practice, you can't put it into play in any way. And it happens in the strength and conditioning community quite a bit. Obviously, there's information overload, as we know, and 98% of it is junk. So people are searching for the new routine and the silver bullet, and then they don't do anything. They don't learn to work. they watch another YouTube video and they read another book and they enroll in another course and then they don't put any of it into action. So yeah, I think that applies to so many so often. But definitely, I've experienced that on my own journey with the self-defense martial arts stuff. I realized all of a sudden I had this giant library of information, and I wasn't actually applying or practicing any of it enough to get anything of value out of it. It was like having a shelf full of the books. You can't learn you got to learn by doing. Especially with any kind of physical stuff. So
love that. Thanks for sharing. Could I add something else too, please? At this point in my life, I'm 44 years old. I've been very blessed to read and learn from some amazing people. But to me, the best strategy right now to learn is to get around smart individuals like yourself, people who've got amazing experience in any platform, any field of life, and suck their brains dry by asking very specific questions that allow me to jump inside their bodies into their field of expertise, into their life experiences. Because I believe that gets me to the future faster, even in some cases better than reading a book, because a lot of the things repeat itself over and over and over again. So I think the more specific the questions you can dial up to someone who's got a lot of amazing experience and expertise, the faster you can get to some of the other stuff.
Yeah, for sure.
So now you're at home, and you start Uncommon Competitor. You built the website, and you just got this, like, how did you begin the leadership consulting business? How does one break into that industry?
Well, you make a lot of mistakes first. I got to share a funny story quick, please. A lot of people don't know this. So I originally started a business called Secrets in Sports years ago. That was kind of like my first LLC. And I'll never forget, I hop on Twitter, I create my Twitter account, and I'm talking trash to my fiance at the time. And I'm like, hey, if I don't get 10,000 followers tonight, because I was so excited, I was going to change the world with everything that I knew and all this fun stuff. I go, if I don't get 10,000 followers by the end of the evening, like, I shouldn't be doing this. At that time, thanks for listening, my slogan for my business was, what you don't know will hurt you. That was my Secrets in Sports slogan. And I send that to Shaquille O'Neal on Twitter. I @ Shaquille O'Neal, and I @ former President Obama at the time, just to try to pique some interest and things like that. Within an hour, Twitter shuts me down and bans my account because that was considered a threat on social media to Shaquille O'Neal and former President Obama. And my wife will never stop talking trash about how stupid I thought I was. I was going to change all this impact with the world, and I hop on social media and I get banned within an hour because I literally don't know what I'm doing. And there was lots of growing pains. I try to save a lot of money because I believe in inoculation. I have to act as if I'm poor before I'm poor, or when I'm not poor, so that if that does show up, I can still make the logistically sound, calculated decisions and not feel the pressure or the ceiling of financial instability come down, and it can still make sound, educated decisions.
Yeah, that's funny.
You had the Secret Service in your bushes.
Yeah. That's awesome. You're like, those guys are going to follow me immediately.
Yeah, I had American Idol syndrome like you wouldn't believe.
Where's my contract?
Well, so I guess secrets in sports was failure to launch, it sounds like, or at least the Twitter account was.
Yeah, it just wasn't clear. I mean, you guys know how clear like TNT strength's got to be. If you need to educate your customers, you're not going to have any customers. It's going to take forever just to get the word out there and increase your signal to noise ratio. So when I had secrets in sports, people were like, "Do you have secrets in some bunker somewhere? Like, what are we talking about here?" And this, there was too much gray area. And then I got pulled into the business side of the world, so I needed to have a more uniform business name, I guess. And that's how Uncommon Competitor was formed, respectfully.
Yeah, and so. I mean, who was your first client? Like, how did you start gathering clients? And I'm sure we'll get into some. You've worked with some pretty incredible people. We won't name drop quite yet, but I mean, how did you start getting those clients?
I believe it's as simple as this, and it's for everybody. Be who you are, but first of all, you got to identify who you are and who you aren't. Now, again, that's a learning process for all of us, but unless you spend intentional time on that, you'll never attract the people that you're supposed to attract to in life because they don't know who you are. And most people don't know who they are either, but putting themselves out into the world consistently with conviction and any of that stuff. So then it's like you're going uphill both ways every single day. Oh, show up, Jesse, and be you. Please be you. 100% all in. I don't care if you hurt my feelings or not. That's not the job. The job is to be you. Have me be me. And if we connect on some values and some beliefs and things like that, we'll be just fine. Or it'll be like, hey, you know what? Liam's a weird duck, so am I, but I just don't resonate. And you go your separate way, I'll go my separate way, and it's all good. Whatever it may be. So I just don't think people show up enough as them, truly them, and they don't take the time to identify who they truly are and aren't. And I think that's what helped me a lot initially when I started my business. Just being me, just being free and being open and honest.
Yeah, there's there's a couple quotes rattling around in my head. One is, I don't remember who said either of these, but one is, I'd rather be hated for who I am than be loved for who I'm not.
Love it.
The other one is, be you. Everyone else is already taken. Yeah. Feels good to be authentic. And I totally agree with you that most people don't have a self-reflective process, like a mechanism in place on a regular basis to be getting that feedback from themselves. I know that's in preparation to interview you today. I heard you in another podcast interview talking about like a gratitude practice. I think having a gratitude practice or journaling or meditation, all of those things, if you're doing them on a regular basis, are going to sort of, they're going to drive your authentic self to the surface. If you don't have if you have a gratitude practice in place and you're having a hard time coming up with stuff, then if you stick with it, you're going to realize like, oh, I need to maybe reorient things so I have more to be grateful for.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, that's actually personally, some people listening to this might know, but I lost my mom when I was 27 years old, and that was a really hard time for me. And that was also when I decided to transition careers from restaurant management to personal training. And I was working with a therapist at the time, and establishing a gratitude practice was one of the main things that helped me get out of that depression at that time. Yeah, it was incredibly effective. I found that, it was like a morning and an evening, nightly routine where right after I wake up or right before I go to bed, I think about 3 things I'm grateful for, specifically to my mom. And I stuck with it long enough that I ran out of things to be grateful to her for. I just counted them all. And then it was like counting sheep. I had to move on to all the other people. I went through each of my, nuclear family members. And then I went through my, coworkers and friends, and it was an incredibly positive process. I absolutely would recommend that to people. I think gratitude is, and there's, I think our audience, some people in our audience might be tempted to think that this stuff is not quantifiable and it's maybe a little, loosey-goosey. We're talking about like soft skill stuff, but there is tangible research around like gratitude and joy and wonder. It sounds funny, but there are researchers out there studying this stuff. And I think it's incredible. It's kind of like, the importance of, surrounding yourself with positive people. I think it's important to establish positive emotional mechanisms in your life. You want to speak to that, Scott?
Oh, I'd love to. It changed my life. There's nothing, in my opinion, that's more controllable in the history of the world that influences your emotional state more than dialing up gratitude. And the speed in which you dial up gratitude determines everything. And you can measure that. We'll do exercises like, okay, the ABCs of gratitude. Go through the alphabet, hit every letter of the alphabet as fast as you can, dial up something that you're grateful for at each letter of the alphabet. And we can time that. I've had people, you guys, lock up on like letter D and they're like, no way they're present. There's nothing that activates you to where your feet are more than activating gratitude. Nothing. And it could be an emergency, a life or death situation. Okay, that's maybe the one exception to the rule. Other than that, if you can access gratitude, there's so many questions inside of that. Like, what are you grateful for within arm's reach of you right now? What choice were you grateful for most today? What will you be grateful for that you will do a choice that's 100% controllable today, right? You just keep going layers and layers and layers deeper. And all of that gets you more and more and more closer to where your feet are. And the greater your awareness, the greater your power. And on and on and on and on. And before you go to sleep at night and the first thing you wake up in the morning, the things that you think about determine your happiness. And the research says a minimum of 10%. So we do things intentionally on purpose. Thanks for listening. Before we go to sleep tonight at night as a family, and when we wake up in the morning, immediately. So we don't mess around with that stuff. And like you were saying too, Jesse, it's for bunny foo-foo, gratitude, like motivation, it's like watered down, leadership's watered down. No, this stuff's grounded in literature and research, and you will never persuade me otherwise, ever. 3 things I'm grateful for right here, written down today. Really simple stuff. Thanks for listening. I'm grateful for today, my health, safety, and family. That's it. And every day it might change a little bit different, but that gets me where my feet are. If you talk to any clinically influenced person who has anxiety, nervousness, it's like 80% of high school kids right now, right? Adults, it's tough, right? We've all been there. But one thing you can ask them is, hey, when's the last time you prioritized being present? And then the prerequisite to that is influencing gratitude and making that stuff sexy, because you can take all the happy pills you want. You can do all the other things outside of you to influence depression, anxiety, whatever. That's $1 billion question, which a lot of medical people are not asking to people who are in those spaces. And I think it's as simple as that. And it's really, really impactful.
Yeah, awesome. Who was the first, if you can say, who was the first kind of high profile person you worked with or you coached as a leadership consultant with Uncommon Competitor?
So I'll answer the question, please, but I'm going to share this first. I don't give a rat's tail who it was, who I work with now, who I have worked with, who I will work with. I don't care about how many people I work with. I used to care about that and wanted to influence as many people as possible. I've seen so many friends be destroyed and get caught up in the smoke and mirrors of, oh, I'm working with this NBA team. I'm working with this CEO of this company. It's this and this and this. I've seen it all from the wealthiest people in the history of the world I've been able to fortunate to work with and things like that, whether it's in the NBA. One family had Rockefeller status in India. Who cares? 25,000 square foot house in the Cayman Islands with a river running through it. Exaggerations of both ends. One person who really impacted me and my business, and I would say this with 100% honesty, is Willie Green. Willie Green was a basketball player at University of Detroit when I was there. Now he just happens to be the head coach for the New Orleans Pelicans in the NBA. One of the most genuine, honest, unique former NBA players who have made it through that really, really difficult platform of professional sports and still held on to his character, his faith, his humility, his ethics. And I just have a ton of respect for him. So I was very fortunate to be introduced to him when I became head strength coach at the University of Detroit 175 years ago.
That's even older than me. That's pretty impressive.
You might have just named the qualities that answer this question, but I mean, what makes a person a great client for you to work with and what is your job as a leadership consultant? I mean, what are you even trying to do with the client?
Again, I have a million questions for TNT Strength. I have so much respect for your guys' platform. If we have time, I would love to dialogue about your philosophy, your approach, our philosophy, our approach to strength training, your business, and what you guys do every day. Changed my life, changed my wife's life, is changing our 16-year-old's life.
We got time. We can talk about that.
I just want to be mindful, but yeah, appreciate it. So talk about it. Can you hit me with the question again, please?
So you mentioned, so my initial question was, who is the first high profile client that you worked with? And you said, well, basically what my takeaway is that a client's like celebrity status isn't necessarily important to you. And then you brought up Willie Green as an example of a great client that you worked with. And so my question really is, what makes for you, what as a leadership consultant, what makes somebody great to work with, and what is your overall goal? Like, what's your major goal with your clients as a leadership consultant?
Yeah, help them feel their best so that they can do their best, that of which they can control. Build leaders faster is the slogan for my business and common competitor. But really, really simple. If they're not value driven, if they're not intentionally aiming at values on a daily basis, I'm not supposed to work with them. Doesn't mean I'm a better human being. Doesn't mean they're worse. You guys have the value Kaizen for your company. I have so much respect for that. It's a game changer. You know the benefits of having that type of aim and intentionality every day and executing on that value and belief. It's worth its weight in gold. I have 6 values for my company. We have a list of 28 questions that highlight values for our family in a frame picture on our walls. We pass by them every day. We go up and down the stairs. And you got to have something to aim at that never changes. And that's why values are so important. And if I'm just showing up and I just work hard, I don't think that's good enough. A good friend of mine told me one time, hard work isn't a strategy. Again, hard work's important. Don't get me wrong. Don't let me devalue the importance of that behavior. But if you're not fueled with some powerful reasons instead of your values or some type of value system, it'll take you 900 million years to accomplish anything worth accomplishing. And I'm really stringent. Hopefully I do a good job of, if I demonstrate my values at a high level, it will magnetize other people who are also value driven, who maybe also might believe some of the things I believe, who aren't perfect at it, by the way. I'm never perfect at anything. I don't walk on water. I don't wear sandals. No, ever. But I do know I need to wake up in the morning and aim at some things. That's why I recite my core values out loud in bed before I even get out of bed in the morning. And I really believe that.
I don't wear sandals either, so I'm right there with you.
Let's go.
Especially with socks.
Like tucking in sweaters too.
I
don't have the style for that.
One of the things that I appreciate about you, Scott, is your communication. In this day and age, communication is very fragmented the way I see it. Every app has its own messaging platform, and we've got texting and email, and nobody wants to talk on the phone anymore. And all, we got all this stuff. Some people have multiple cell phones, and I think successful people can be very hard to get a hold of, which is, it just like Liam's and my attitude about that is that, and I think that we share the same attitude as you, is that everyone deserves a response. And especially, I think it's kind of a cultural thing where we live, that people don't like to give negative answers. So if you say, hey, can you do this? And the answer is no, they will just not respond. And our approach is that it's better to give somebody a clear answer than not respond. And to me, that, like, it's a very simple, fundamental practice. But to be honest, I was very happy to meet you at the Resistance Exercise Conference. I was, as I have been with many guests at this point, because we've had, people with millions of subscribers on social media, come and be on our podcast. And I am a little bit surprised when people get back to me, because, we're this little Oakland company, this podcast, but it does increase my respect for a person when, even if the answer is no, I can't come on the podcast. When we do get a response that, you mentioned that with Willie Green, he's had all this success. He stayed humble, he stayed faithful, all that stuff. And I appreciate that about you. And it seems to me that even if that's not something that's you're sort of explicitly like drilling into people with your coaching, you're probably influencing people to be more like that just by being in contact with them.
Yes, sir. No, communications, we could talk about this for 30 hours straight and not take a breath. That's why I schedule all my calls. Like, my mom and dad might call me randomly. My ringer's never on my phone. My wife's ringer is never on her phone. Like, there's a reason. Like, you got to have those tech rules, those communicational standards. I believe in the Sam Walton sundown rule too. It's afforded my business lots of opportunity by communicating to the best of my ability back the same day and responding back the same day when somebody reaches out to me. Now, if I create a platform where that's impossible to do, that's on me then. And if I don't want to make that person a priority and respond back within 24 to 48 hours, great. Then I get to deal with those type of relationships on, the long-term effectiveness of those. But I do know this, the majority of the world is absolute horse crap at responding back consistently over time in any professional or personal platform. So I'm like, just keep doing it. And if I can be a little bit more consistent than you, I'll be able to gobble up all this opportunity. So thanks for being mediocre in this certain space, because I've been there too. And I know what it feels like to hear crickets from people. And you send out an email or you call someone, leave a message, you just get crickets, or, they pretend like they're meditating, or they're so busy, or it's in season, or unless you're dead or in a coma or there's fire, flood, or blood, respond back, you scumbag. And I'm saying this to myself in the mirror. I don't want a free pass any more than anyone else does in communication. But there's lots of opportunity in that space. And where there's no communication, there's no relationship. So thanks for letting me know where my priority lays, in our space, where it lies in our space. And we'll go from there. It's a really easy filter. And then I delete you on my cell phone for 24 hours. And I actually do that.
We actually have it built in. I mean, it's literally on the wall here in the studio that we get back to people within 24 hours. It's, one of the things that we show people when they come in
to guarantee.
Yeah. And honestly, with me, and Jesse obviously knows this from being around me so much, is like, I hate it when people don't respond. And I tell everyone that I deal with, like, any response is better than no response. Even if it's dropping an F-bomb and tell me they don't want to talk to me. I don't want zero response. Zero response is the worst every time. It's disrespectful. It just doesn't make any sense. Everyone has, especially with these modern, there's all these versions. You have 2 seconds. Just say I'm busy. I don't care. I'm not going to be offended, but don't just ghost me, right? That's just, it's unacceptable. Yeah. And so, we literally guarantee people that we will get back to them within 24 hours.
As a side note, I've heard there's a new term. It's different than ghosting. It's called zombieing. So this is where somebody ghosts you and then they come back from the dead out of nowhere.
Actually, I have a whole bunch of friends, that I cut slack, right? Guys I've known since high school, going back 4 years. And, I wish it wasn't the case, but like, they are so slow to respond that if I send them any kind of message, if they get back to me before like a month or two, I'm surprised. And it's just, I just accept it. I've known them for years. I just know eventually they're going to get back, right? But yeah, with any kind of, new stuff or business stuff or whatever, especially a company of any kind, I don't care what kind of company it is, they should be responding in some way. It's ridiculous. Customer service.
Thank you for sharing.
All over.
100%. So I got to share a strategy, please. Please. So I used to have like 3,000 contacts in my phone. And I used to think I was all big time and, I got all these connections and all this garbage. And now I think I have 244 contacts in my phone. But here's how I'll randomly send out a message like, if you were to give someone any advice, if they were dying, what would it be? And right away, people are like, are you okay? Or is everything good? And then, people rise from the grave and they're like, oh, you might get a message back. But if nobody takes that message seriously from me, and I'll send it individually out to every single person, I'll just hop on a bike and I'll just individually text everyone or I might ask a question like, have you learned anything powerful lately worth sharing? And if I get crickets, literally, I'll give them maybe 5 to 7 days. I'll delete them. I have the right. It's a privilege to speak with you all and people, and privilege to have you in my phone. But guess what? You have to earn that privilege and continually earn that privilege. And so do I. And you can set whatever standards you want, formally or informally in life, to keep people inside of that family or, community in your phone. And I do all kinds of other weird stuff. My wife talks trash all the time. She's like, you're weird. I'm like, I don't care. It allows me to stay connected to those people even more because I have a smaller network of people that when I go and travel somewhere, I just type in, if I'm going to California, I type in CA because the initials are in front of another strategy, in front of everyone's name in my phone. So I know everyone that I stay connected with in California before I go out there. I just type in CA in my phone and I go through the list because I got 244 contacts in my phone. And I believe what Mark Twain said, I'm talking a lot. We're going to be curious and be popular. When you find yourself in a platform of popularity, what the majority of people do, you need to step your ASS back and reflect. You're going down a path. You're going to be in trouble. Anyways, that's my opinion.
I like that idea of putting the initials in there. That's a good idea for the states or whatever. That's simple. Cool. So like when you're in somewhere, because I definitely, I have connections in different parts of the country. I might head back east or, I got a bunch of people in Virginia, Maryland, DC, whatever, I'm somewhere back there. Yeah, that would be much, much easier to pull them up if I know I got them categorized like
100%.
That. It's a good idea.
One thing that changed my life, sorry to keep talking, is that I don't want to store anything in my head that I don't have to. I want to keep things open up here. That's why I write everything down, all my responsibilities, all that fun stuff. I want to take as much stuff out of my head as possible. That's not life or death or things like that I need. An example would be, I wonder who I know in Florida when I'm going there next week. Or no, I'll put that somewhere else so that I can access it, so I can free up my bandwidth to enjoy what I'm doing at the highest level, no man or woman, hopefully that I can, or creatively think through whatever I'm doing or whatever's in front of me.
Yeah, and also you got to stop
believe that.
apologizing for talking because that's why you're here.
I think in this type of conversation, it's again coming back to that idea of like these very like if you're an analytical type person, you can listen to these things we're talking about like communication, yeah, and getting back to people and gratitude and all right, yeah, it's all fluffy stuff. But I think when you step back and you think about how many people actually execute on communicating efficiently and sort of refining their social network and cultivating mindfulness practice on a daily basis. These are things that are, like I say about habits, small habits are easy to do and they're easy not to do also. And, whichever direction you go, doing them or not doing them is going to compound over time.
Hey, what are those guys doing here? Whenever I feel like I'm stalling out on my bench press, I know I need a new strength curve. Whether you're stalling out on the road or stalling out in the gym, you need something with great engineering. That's right. And so look for the pendulum. Pendulum. Not just your average strength machines. No, they have smooth strength curves, amazing rigidity. And did we mention the engineering's fantastic? That's right. Not to mention, they come in cool colors. Like red. And silver. Well, that was kind of weird. What was that all about? Back to the interview.
So
Go ahead.
you go ahead.
I was going to say, you're about to tell us how awesome we are and why you like us so much. So maybe you should tell us something about that.
Heck yeah. So both know you're one of the rare groups of individuals and companies in the world who, in my opinion, executes the most disciplined form of exercise known to man or woman in the history of the world, period. Now, I don't care if people agree with that or not. I know you all do. The benefits and the disciplines of doing one set to failure in the way in which you guys do it. And on top of that, layering in some very, very serious supervision, it's invaluable. I haven't found anything in life meet or match that type of value in a human to human interaction. When you get someone in a room and you grind in the Cheeto dust on a freaking leg press or a superior tool that you guys use, and you ask for more, and they don't want to be there maybe in the first place sometimes, and maybe they're not completely present, or they're afraid of their own bodies, or they don't like themselves, or they have nobody after they leave your facility who's going to challenge them or hold them accountable to anything to save their tail. And you might be the only person in their life that actually holds them to the best version of themselves physically, mentally, and emotionally. There's not a better return in the history of the world. There's not, in my opinion. And I have so much respect for what you guys do. Just don't stop doing it.
Thanks, Scott. We feel the same way. We feel very proud of our business and the service that we offer people, and that's why we do this podcast, because we want to expose more people to high intensity training methods. And sometimes I think about maybe there were times in human history where our population was generally more healthy, like maybe like right before the agricultural revolution. We're still hunting and gathering,
Well, even with farmers, they were working hard.
Yeah, but yeah, it's true. But even then, they didn't have Nautilus. They did not have the tools that we have now. So at least the potential for you got Scott's showing us some of his sweet Nautilus equipment at his home gym over here. Looks like you got a Versa climber there on the side too. We like that.
Nice.
Sweet. He's got the Nautilus pullover. Hell yes.
We got hammer ISO pullover, 2ST, sorry to interrupt.
With a hammer pullover.
Look at that. All kinds of good. So you got a little 4-way neck over there?
Oh, yeah. Yes, sir. Good eyes, good awareness. And then a bunch of stuff in the other room, too. Fortunate. Awesome. Sorry, keep going, please.
Hunter-gatherers never had no 4-way neck machine. They didn't have the sweet tools that we have now. So I do think that, there's maybe you've even read these books, Scott, Sapiens or Homo Deus.
Oh, sure.
Yeah, I mean, so Yuval Noah Harari's talking about the future of the human species and how we could, are we better off than we have been in the past? Are we going to be better off, in the future? Are certain people going to be much better off? And we have the tools now that everyone can be, stronger, longer living, better living human being now than ever before. if you have the right habits in place.
Yeah, absolutely. Cool. I like your home gym, man. VersaClimber. It's like been on the top of my list for a million years.
They don't put them in health clubs anymore because they're too hard and nobody uses
Yeah,
them.
it's
They just
hilarious.
like
Right? And even when they are there, most of the time they're just nobody touches them because they're like hard work. Absolutely, it's hilarious. You'll some gym with like 100 stairmasters and there's like one VersaClimber in the corner and nobody ever gets on it. Yeah, it's true. I don't know if you heard about this. Did you know Tom Kelso?
But love him. Great guy.
Yeah. Tom is, top of my list, when it comes to the strength guys. He's brilliant and just an awesome, but he always talks about like the ultimate gym is basically that only has two things, like a line of good equipment, doesn't matter. Let's just say it's Nautilus. And then a line of VersaClimbers. You got 20 minutes to do as many sets to failure as you can down this line. And then you got to climb 1,500 feet as fast as you can. And that's it. And you don't get off until you're done. And that's the workout. And it's like, that's it. Like literally, like you could just do that and just be unstoppable. That's all you need, man.
Sounds pretty gnarly.
Yeah. Not allowed to climb down until you get that 1,500 feet.
Scott, what are some of the qualities that you see? Because now we can drop some names. Like you were in contact with Kobe Bryant at one point. You've been in contact. You said you coached some Indian royalty or something. I don't know, but somebody who had a 25,000 square foot home with a river running through it. You've coached some incredible people, some wealthy people, successful people. What are some of the common denominators you see between those highly successful people?
They're extremely competitive, right? They're doing different things when everybody else is doing something else. It's really obvious, right? They talk differently. They don't care what other people think. And that pisses a lot of people off too, because it's like, oh, well, they're borderline disrespectful and this. Well, again, I believe in, hopefully I demonstrate this and hopefully I sprinkle some humility in there too, but I would rather be wrong than in doubt. I've seen the benefit of myself and others when you go all in on something and you don't care what other people think, but you just go all in because you believe going all in with 100% conviction to the best of your ability, it creates a different level of momentum, no matter what you're doing personally or professionally. But most people are like scared rabbits, spineless jellyfish walking around like, oh, I don't know what they're going to think, or, oh, I might hurt their feelings. Or no, do it for you so you can show up as you, so that they can show up or increase odds of their ability to likely show up as them. And people need more of that. And again, I could talk about this for 100 years, but I just really believe in that.
Yeah. That's definitely not something I have a problem with.
Liam,
sensitivity equals poverty.
Always. What was it like meeting with Kobe Bryant? Like, what was the context of that?
Here's what the context was with all these amazing people have been around in a lot of cases. So I got to work with the Lakers G League team for a long time. I think it was about 3 years when Kobe was, still alive. And people were in the building, right? So Magic Johnson was in the building, Kobe's in the building, Phil Jackson was in the building. And you got to see these people. And did I have like best friend type conversations with? No, but I got to see LeBron train by himself in the weight room. I got to see LeBron practice. I got to see and meet with Phil Jackson. We got to do a very, very unique champions video, top secret underground video with Phil Jackson, Steve Kerr. They shot videos in their home to communicate what they believed helped them win championships. And this isn't a release. This is on YouTube. This is an underground thing. And we had 2 series of videos with this. So again, I've just been very, very fortunate to be around a lot of unique people in various ways, shapes, or forms, whether it was the Golden State Warriors for years and just go to practice and watch film, or the Minnesota Lynx on the WNBA side on basketball specifically. Who cares? But I've been very fortunate to be allowed access to places that most people aren't.
Would you have the Secret Service in your bushes again if you told us what was on that Secret Underground champion video?
No, because I don't think people treat information and education and wisdom as valuable as it should be. So I don't think people even care much anymore, other than maybe you two gentlemen, because there's a phrase that goes, only the educated are free. And an educated man is never fooled or robbed, right? I really believe in that. Hopefully I demonstrate that. I get sick to my stomach if I don't learn something new today, but I believe most people could care less. What did George Bernard Shaw say one time, right? 2% of the world thinks, 3% of the world thinks they think. The other 95% rather die than think. I really believe that. People don't get a rat's tail if they learn anything. So if I share a champions video that is very, very unique and has limited access to the world, probably won't even watch it. I'll watch it 1,700 times because I've learned the importance of information and wisdom.
Plus,
and
like
convert to action.
when you're looking at those things, But as you know, it's like reading the Nautilus bulletins. You know, Jim Flanagan said we should all Nautilus bulletins like once a year. You really do just keep getting something different out of it, right? Every time. On the 10th time and the 20th time, you keep on finding things, and that's true of any good information source, right? Like the same thing, like watching those videos. I'm sure you jokingly say, or maybe not that 1,700 times, but you'll still find something, right? Because that's the way it's the way you're looking, and the fact that you're able. And I still happens to me all the time. I go, wow, I've seen this thing 30 times and I never saw that before. I don't remember this. How come that didn't stick out to me last time? You know what I mean? And you take it away, and it's another brand new diamond, that you have to go and add to your treasure box and polish it and start to use it. And that's all. It's kind of fun, honestly, when you come away with that new discovery from that old box.
Liam, thank you so much for sharing that. That led to a question that also changed my life. Not only, you all know this, the importance of asking people like, hey, what books have you read? No, what books have you reread? What movies have you rewatched? Whole another layer, because then you're like, whoa, Liam went back to it.
Yeah, I've joked with Luke about this because he's also a voracious reader, and
yes, sir.
At one point, I got in his Instagram comments and I said, hey, it'd be great if there was some feature on Audible where when Luke makes a book recommendation, it just automatically purchases that book for me. Because he reads a lot of great books. And, I've gone through a shift similar to the one that you had, it sounds like, where, I still, like at one point I probably was listening to and or reading 4 or 5 books a month, and I've gotten to the point now where it's probably more like 1 or 2, and I've also, just like you're recommending here, gotten to the point where I've gone back through the catalog of books that I've read and asked myself, which one of these do I need to reread? And so now there's a small number of books that I have read several times and will continue to read. The one that I personally read the most, I read it every single day, is the Daily Stoic, which gives little morsels of Stoic philosophy. And
we're gonna have to get you the curmudgeon, Daily Curmudgeon.
Liam reads the Daily Curmudgeon. So yeah, I do think I don't know what to call that exactly. It's like the refining your like intake of information process, and I think there's certain
sharpening the saw.
Yeah, something like that. It's like there's the 2 lumberjacks, who saw down trees all day, every day. And one of the guys leaves for 2 hours in the middle of the day every day, and the other guy just keeps going at it, and they always finish at the same time. And the guy who never leaves, he goes, where do you go in that 2 hours in the middle of the day? And the other guy's like, well, I go to eat some lunch and sharpen my saw.
Yep. I think it's as simple as this, too. It could be as simple as this. There's something in the air that makes us forget. And it could be the law of familiarity in combination with other things that I'll never forget. A friend of mine told me, he goes, it's not what you know, Scott, that matters. It's what you've forgotten. And you create a lifestyle, a system, you organize your life in a way that helps you forget the most important things less than everybody else. And whether it's rereading stuff, creating an environment at your house, how you travel, whatever you do, that helps you forget the most important things less than everybody else. And I think that's exactly what rereading books does. And that helps.
We have a lot of, strength training studio operators who listen to this podcast. Obviously people are fans of high intensity training in general. A lot of trainers, listen to our podcast. What advice would you, specifically to the like HIIT studio operators, what advice would you give to them?
Really, really easy. I think this is really untapped. And I think if you kidnapped every single one of your clients and kind of asked them a series of these questions, their answer would be yes to every one of them. The mental benefit to what you guys do is absolutely insane. If we know most of the world, whether it's a high school kid all the way up, is experiencing significant levels of fear, anxiety, nervousness, all that fun stuff, and you can get them to enter into the physically demanding, rip the heart out of your chest workouts that you guys do that are healthy, that are safe, that are time efficient, there's nothing that'll positively influence those levels of challenges that people are experiencing right now in the world. And you can look at all the literature, forget the physiological characteristics and benefits. of everything that you do and the way that we train. The mental side, I believe, is completely untapped. And there's nothing that they can put inside their body, in my opinion, or a breathing technique. And I do Navy SEAL breathing every day, and I believe in that stuff, whatever. But there's nothing other than getting them to do something really, really hard and to do it consistently in a safe manner that's going to improve their mental, physical, emotional health, like what you guys do. And I think there's so many things to talk about here, but if you identify what people are struggling with the most, and forget obesity, right? We already know, like, by 2030, half the world's going to be obese. It's embarrassing. I lost 30 pounds over COVID just because I tweaked two habits in my life, right? Standing desk. We got 3 standing desks in our freaking house right now. Changed my life. Burn 50 more calories standing than you do seated. Do whatever you want, but like that coupled with full body and high intensity workouts a week, I feel like I can wake up in the morning and dodge freaking bullets. I really believe that. I think a cold plunge I do cold therapy every day. That in combination with the discipline training that you guys install, I literally believe no matter what shows up at my doorstep, that's why I love this philosophy and strength training so much, and I will never change. I have to tell you a quick story, please.
Okay.
When I first started training my wife, my litmus test to her was to take her through a full body strength training workout, okay, HIIT style, and grind her to Cheeto dust. And if she could get back up, or if she could come back and go through another workout and pursue another workout intentionally, not just by me pressuring her, it would increase the odds in her favor of being the one for me. And she passed out literally the first workout, turned as white as the frame on my hammer pullover right now on the floor, but she got back up and she came in for another workout and came in for another workout. And then she learned how to train her son. Then she learned how to train me, and we never look back. And there's nothing I believe that you can give to another human being than supervision, accountability inside of the amazing philosophy of high intensity strength training. It's so fun. It's so rewarding.
I got a great breathing technique for you that I give to everyone. It's very simple.
Please.
All you got to do is smell the roses, blow out the candles. That's it. Just remember those 2 things, and you'll be doing better than most people. That's how I remind my clients. Smell the roses, blow out the candles.
Love it.
People are holding their breath. I just tell them there are 2 rules to training at TNT. There's no breathing or no smiling. And then they usually start doing both of those things. So it makes it a little better. Let me ask you this, Scott. I mean, when you're working with, you're working with a variety of different people, and maybe these people don't become clients because they're not bought in, but do you ever work with people who are resistant to your coaching techniques or philosophies?
I used to. I'm in a position right now where I'm very fortunate where I can self-select the people that I work with. I met with a 17-year-old and his 2 parents the other day at Buffalo Wild Wings, and I'm just like, hey, this doesn't influence our relationship whether we work together formally or not, but I'm just going to let you know, here's some concerns I have, and I'm completely okay if we don't do anything. Like, my wife's got a great job. We got plenty of money in the bank. I'm very, very fortunate. I have a waiting list of people, individuals, teams, and companies that I'm fortunate to work with. And I'll say that with humility and hopefully a little grace. But there's nothing better than when you hit a tipping point where you can tell people to screw off. Say, I don't need to compromise the values of my family just for money or income or revenue.
I agree with you too. Like, people, they need to be willing to do it, right? Or else, I tell Jesse this all, we talk about this, but when I would interview people who were potential clients, even when I was running my own, independent stuff, I used to do these questions, and I would ask them on a scale of 1 to 10, how motivated are you to do it? And if they didn't say 10, I'd go, you know what? I don't think you're ready to be a client of mine right now. And usually that's the tipping point, right? They either go, wait, right? And they will jump up and step up and do it, or they'll reflect and go, okay, maybe I'm not ready. And I'm like, good. It's good for both of us. Because I don't want, we don't want to waste your time and my time, right?
Yes, sir.
If you're a 10, let's go, right? Otherwise, come back when you are a 10.
Love it, Liam. And that's one thing that I think I got lucky with my business. 3-strike, 2-way accountability. So it's a protective mechanism that, because I do 30-day contracts with people, nuclear option, so you can blow it up afterwards, you can continue, whatever. But if you don't do what you say you're going to do, it's 100% accountable. You're not dead or in a coma. There's not fire, flood, or blood. And we agree upon this deadline to something throughout the week or throughout the month. That's a strike. Same thing for me. I don't get a free pass. If I said I was going to send you this by this time, and I don't follow through on my word, and there's no emergency that came up, I get a strike. You can retire my jersey before we even finish the contract, strikes and I'm out. Same thing with the individual I'm with. So I believe that protects both of us to make sure that we take things as seriously as we should. And if you 3 strike out, you got to sit, you got to wait 3 months to get back on if there's even availability. So again, it separates the cheese ball phrase from the contenders from the pretenders, in my opinion.
It's good.
And then I love that you guys, thanks for your patience. I love that you guys communicate within 24 hours. That's your guarantee. My guarantee is if I'm late for anything, if I'm a minute late for anything, that's also, I will pay a fine or I'll pay a stipend back to you because it's like, oh, somebody called you back. Like you were saying, Jesse, oh, imagine that. Somebody called me back.
Yeah.
Oh, imagine that. Or imagine somebody's on time, or man, oh, somebody's early, prepared with questions. Oh, imagine that.
Yeah, that's funny.
And I'll keep doing the opposite.
I actually agree. Jesse had mentioned, leading into this, that you are, very much on time, right? Hyper punctual, if you will. And I personally appreciate that. I actually own watches that self-correct every night with the atomic clock. Like that's the coolest feature to me in the world. I'm a time.
More, please.
Yeah, there are these watches made by G-Shock, and all you do is set them on your windowsill, and they communicate with an atomic clock in Colorado and keep the time exactly set perfectly with, and they reset themselves every night to be synced with this atomic clock. So they're always accurate. And to me, like I want I'm like a time weenie. I want things to be accurate. So I have those watches, and when I would wear them all the time, I know that my watches are right. I try to be early to everything myself. I had a friend in college, actually a roommate, who was like that. Who kind of, at first I thought it was a little kind of rude. If we said, all right, we'll meet at 9:00. If you showed up there at, 9:01, you'd see his taillights leaving. You know what I mean? And he was like, yeah, you said 9, man. And I was there. And so I left, and I used to think, wow, you're a jerk. You know what I mean? Like you couldn't wait a minute. But, in certain ways I appreciate it. Right. He was hyper punctual way back then, there's some benefits to that.
I believe that discipline equals freedom. I really believe that. Again, I'm not perfect at anything, but thanks for sharing big time stuff.
I don't know where to go from here. We've got a lot of really great advice, and
I think one of the big takeaways is something we've already touched on several times, is the idea that a lot of this stuff might sound like to some people like it's not that important, or it's like fluffy stuff, as you said, or some people just might go, oh yeah, whatever, it's common sense, right? One of my mentors, used to jokingly call those things uncommon sense, right? Like when people hear it, they go, oh yeah, everybody does that, but you're not doing it, right? You hear it and suddenly you think it makes sense, but how come you haven't executed or actually adopted it, previously, until somebody finally shines that light and shows you that it's been right in front of you the whole time. So I think the people that do listen and reflect and take a moment to self-analyze and go, am I doing any of these things, or is this something I'm missing, or am I really thinking about gratitude? Do I ever do that? Right? Hopefully, it'll have some impact if they take that moment and don't just go, yeah, right, got it, gratitude, next.
100%. I think it comes down to the questions. I mean, one question I really appreciate is, what did I do today that I should do every single day for the rest of my life? And you ask people that question a lot, and then you just hear crickets. And it doesn't mean they're bad people. Doesn't mean I'm better, right? Like Mark Asanovich said a million years ago, right? There's a lot of well-intended people out there, but they're just not well-educated. We've all been there. I'm not special. I don't get a free pass. I was one of the smartest people in the dumb row, and I still am in a lot of categories. So, I mean, it's whatever you want it to be. But I think the questions, there's an unbelievable story in a book called How to Think Like Leonardo da Vinci. And the story is about the nomads. And everybody knows who the nomads were. They were land travelers, explored the territories, whatever. But in the book, they talked about, if you're awake, you can ask a first question. And the question that the nomads supposedly asked themselves was, what can we do to live by water? And is that some Soviet secret? Is that going to change your life? Well, if you're living all over the place and exploring territory and water's a resource, well, okay, I hope you're smart enough to ask the question, what can we do to live by water, right? But here's what changed everything. In the book, How to Think Like Da Vinci said this, and this changed my life. And it comes back to everything that you both said, in my opinion, the whole time on this call, and all the amazing questions you've asked. Who cares if you were asking me or anyone else? Like, it doesn't matter. You reframe or rephrase the initial question, and it changes everything. So instead of the nomads asking, what can we do to live by water? Reframe or rephrase the question. What can we do to make water come to us? What motivates you, Jesse? What motivates you, Scott? Reframe that sucker. What can motivate you? You just go from 1 to 3 things to 3,000 or unlimited answers to what can motivate you. And that's just by reframing or rephrasing the freaking question. And that stuff fires me up because it's changed my life. And again, I'm not perfect at it, but I do know any challenge I have right now, personally, professionally, financially, anything can be solved by the questions I've never asked before. And then does that drive action? So I'm just a big fan.
Nice.
GNT strength. Yeah, let's go.
Boom, baby.
Boom, baby.
Well, one other thing I want to touch on is setting whatever you want to call them, boundaries or parameters or just habits around technology. I think that's a super valuable. I have like two questions in my head right now because you mentioned that when people call you, they're like your ringer is always off. And I was thinking about like one habit that I've had for I don't know how long now. I don't know, maybe a decade. Is that when I go to sleep, my phone's on. I don't have my ringer off. My phone's on, but when I go to sleep, I put my phone on airplane mode, so I am unreachable. You have to be physically there with me to reach me.
Yeah,
And
I actually do turn mine off every night.
yeah, and I mean, I think a lot of people feel that like ever-present anxiety around their phone because like what if an emergency happens? But in a decade or so of doing that, I have not once had somebody contact me in the middle of the night with an actual emergency. I have woken up plenty of times in the morning and seen clients who texted overnight at 3 a.m., or just irrelevant, spam, right? But like turning my phone off has spared me anxiety. So I think that's one of those things that it's one of those like habits that seem minor, but actually it might free up a fair amount of bandwidth for you if you're keeping your phone on all the time. And my general question that I'm coming to, Scott, is what advice do you have for people around busyness? Because maybe people are distracted by their phone, or maybe they're distracted by reading too much and not executing, or like just in general around how to be like if people are, because you work with all these, I know this is a long-winded question, but you work with all these people who they're like NBA coaches and they've got to put a winning team on the court and win the game, and then they have to go to the press conference and they still have a family life. And I mean, you work with extremely busy people, business owners. What advice do you have for those people?
Yeah, you can't do it all. You got to know what you're aiming at. So there's a strategy that really helped me. Inform, aim, speed. Inform the crap out of yourself in whatever buckets you care about most, whether it's in your value systems, your professional platform, whatever it is. Inform your brains out. Make sure that's a huge chunk of your day, right? A huge chunk of your day. The new definition of a teacher is a passionate learner. For some freaking reason, we changed the definition of teacher and it's like, oh, you just teach people all day. No. Definition of a teacher is a passionate learner. So literally 90% of your day, you have to be sucking people's brains dry and learning and informing yourself so that you can increase the odds in your favor to make different choices than everybody else who are going in different directions. And then that determines your aim. So if I'm like, I don't want to use the word busy. I don't want to use that. I don't even want to use the word balanced. I want to use maybe some verbiage like harmony, or, I feel pretty good about my choices today. And I feel like they're setting me up for good, healthy lifestyles and whatever, right? So inform, that's going to determine what I aim at. If I don't know that really healthy, high-performing competitors out there who aren't busy, I'm not aiming at that. So I got to inform myself more, then I aim differently, and then it determines the speed in which I get there. And I just really believe in how simple and how embarrassingly digestible that daily system can be. This is all I got right here. If it's not on this list, I don't need to do it today.
Scott's holding up a little mini notepad. Looks like it's about.
Oh, yes, sir.
All I got is some
Taku.
All I got is some squiggles and dribbles and doodles. I'm doodling on my pad.
Delete this podcast because it wasn't worth anything because you dropped picture.
All right, it's done. We ruined it.
Well, Scott, I'm so grateful that we got to meet at the Resistance Exercise Conference. Scott, we're very happy to have you on, and I think our listeners have received a lot of valuable information in this interview. If they listen closely and if they take that information and apply it, good things will happen. Are there any thoughts that you'd like to leave our audience with before we let you get back to your high intensity workout over there, your Versa Climber 1,500 foot climb?
Yeah, climbing the Eiffel Tower. No, I just want to say thanks so much. Very grateful. I do know how important catching someone's eye and commanding their ear is in 2023. I really believe attention is the rarest and most important form of generosity possibly right now in the world. So I'm very grateful for the attention for you both and the attention that one listener might have, or who knows in the future. And hopefully I take that seriously and I arrived prepared and passionate, and just always let me know what I can do better. And I'm really grateful for what you guys do. It's not for everyone. You guys know this. If you kidnapped 100 people, 90 people probably wouldn't finish the workout. Of the 10 left over, a handful might come back and do your philosophy, your approach, our philosophy, our approach consistently over time. But the people who do, it'll change their life forever. So just a ton of respect for what you guys do, because it influences your lifestyle too. It influences how you behave as a human, because there's no way you can eat properly or not eat properly and do the workouts that you guys do. There's no way you can mess around professionally and have a disorganized home life or family life. You'll be sleeping all day because your mindset will be so trash because the workouts will ruin you in a competitive way. So I believe it's not a one-dimensional return or one-dimensional benefit. It's like 900 billion what you guys do. So very grateful for that.
That's a good size number.
Yeah, well, thanks so much, Scott. Really looking forward to when our paths cross again. Great talking with you today.
Next time you come out and check your phone for what's in CA, hopefully you'll remember we're here and come and visit.
Heck yeah, 100%.
We'll put you through a good workout.
Love it. Looking forward to it.
We'll try to see if we can get a little Cheeto dust out of you.
I respect that.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the Truth Not Trends
TNT Strength Podcast. Don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review us on whatever platform you're on, and share these episodes with a friend. Spread the word.
If you want to learn more about us, you can visit tntstrength.com.
You can also call us live right here at the studio anytime at 510-768-5421.
Or shoot us an email at contact@tntstrength.com.
If you visit, you can sign up and get our free training and nutrition PDF. Just head on over, click the box. It'll be in your inbox in no time.
While you're at tntstrength.com, check out our store where we offer our fantastic TNT Strength nutritional supplements.
And whatever you do, stay off with that stupid blue bosu. Go, yeah. Right, got it. Gratitude. Next.
Mixed and edited by Desmond McNeese for We Mixed It, LLC. Go to whatsoundsawesome.com.
All right, it's done. We ruined it.